So what is plot? Plot asks the reader to focus on the main details that make up the action in the story. A plot diagram is often referred to whenever readers are asked to focus in on those main details. When building your plot diagram, the exposition and the conflict are details that can be found in the beginning of the story. The rising action and climax are details that can be found in the middle of the story. The falling action and the resolution are details that can be found at the end of the story. Now, let's take a look at what each part of a plot diagram means. Let's use the Pixar short film Lifted to help us better understand the components to build a plot diagram. This will help us understand the plot of the film. The exposition is the introduction to the story, including the main characters' names, setting, mood, and time. At the beginning of the film, you would have noticed that it started out with a quiet field, a house, and a sleeping boy that was starting to get lifted. You'll notice at the bottom of this picture that the exposition starts off in the beginning. This is where you would identify this component for your plot diagram. Next is the conflict, the primary problem that drives the plot of the story, often a main goal for the protagonist to achieve or overcome. The conflict in the film was that the alien was training, but he didn't know how to lift the sleeping boy. You'll notice on the diagram that the conflict is next to the exposition. Both are at the start of the diagram and both consist of details from the film that came from the beginning. The rising action consists of all the events that lead up to the climax, including character development and events that create suspense. At this point of the film, the alien boy begins to get more and more frustrated with his inability to lift the sleeping boy. You'll notice on the diagram that the rising action looks like it's climbing up towards the top of the diagram, which dates back to the definition of the rising action, how it's multiple events that lead to the climax. The climax, the most exciting part of the story, and is a turning point for the plot or goals of the main character. The climax in the film was when the alien boy finally figures out how to lift the sleeping boy. He gets cocky, but with his luck, lets go of the switch too soon before the spacecraft entrance closed. As you see on the diagram, the climax is at the tip top of what appears to look like a mountain. That's because the climax is the most exciting part of the story. Which leads us into our falling action, which is everything that happens as a result of the climax, including wrapping up with points, questions being answered, and character endings. Since the climax left us off with not knowing what was going to happen to the sleeping boy, the falling action is going to give us those answers. For instance, the alien teacher fixes everything in the house and lets alien boy drive the spaceship. So when you think of the events that happened after we were left with what was going to happen with the sleeping boy, we can see that the alien teacher stepped in and fixed the problem. After that, he lets the alien boy drive the spaceship because he feels bad for him. As you can see on the diagram, the falling action comes after the climax, which leads into our resolution, which is the ending of our story. The resolution is not always happy, but it does complete the story. It can leave the reader with questions, answers, frustrations, or satisfactions. The resolution for this film was when the alien boy crashes the spaceship and human boy, aka sleeping boy, is left lifted on a giant spire in a canyon. As you can see, the resolution is at the end of the diagram, which indicates that you have now found the details that support the end of the story. So there you have it, all you need to know about plot structure using a plot diagram. Hope this video helped you understand how a plot is developed in a story.